franktalks.com.
This program does not represent the views of this station and may be considered offensive to some listeners. This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank. It is broadcast here under license.
Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank, because I have to be. We have a really fun show for you today. In studio today we have Mr. Greg Dunlevy. He is a public entertainer, a stilt performer, and actor. He does special events, and during slow seasons he plays on the streets in the summer and is a Metro performer and musician in winter. He is also the current president of Metro Musicians Association. Welcome to the studio, Greg.
Thanks, Frank.
Greg, let's start off with your history. You mainly are a performer. You're quite the artist. I mean, you're very multi-talented. Quite a different variety of talents you have. But I'd like to focus specifically on your position as president of the Music Metros Association, and as well as your experience as a Metro and street performer. So can we start off with your history about how you first got into music, specifically the flute?
Well, the first time I ever touched an instrument, Frank, I was about 12 years old, and I attempted to play the guitar, and I finally ran into a couple of people who showed me how to play it when I was about 15, and then I ended up being singer for a couple of rock bands. And the flute, I actually, many years later, I was living in on Colonial Street near Pine Avenue, and somebody had left a flute in my house one day, and I found it that night, and I picked it up, started blowing into it, got a sound out of it, and I stayed up all night and figured out a fingering, and from there on, it was just clear, go straight through. And a few years later, I decided to take lessons, and needless to say, I had to unlearn everything I'd taught myself and start all over again, and which I did. And very shortly, I had passed the level I'd gotten to on my own. So
you're primarily a self-taught musician.
Primarily, I mean, I have taken courses. I've taken quite a few years of flute courses from professional teachers.
Can you tell me a little bit about the pleasures that you experience playing the flute as opposed to other instruments?
Well, I find the flute is a really very flowing instrument. It's a very mystical instrument. It's a very soft instrument at the same time. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people when I'm playing in the Metro, people who will pass me for months and months and months, and all of a sudden one day they stop and say, you know, I just wanted to tell you, every time I come down and hear your flute, it really brightens up my day. It puts sunshine into my day. You know, it makes my whole day. I'm on my way to work in the morning, you know, and I'm feeling really down or really grouchy or, you know, not great, and I hear your flute, and boy, it just picks me up, you know, and I can get through my day with it.
How does that make you feel when you hear people come up to you and say things like that?
Well, it makes you feel like, gee, you know, I'm really doing a service here. You know, I'm doing a service. I'm giving the people something, people to get their day going.
That's beautiful. Let's talk now about some of the history that you experienced. Musicians Association. How did that come about? What was the catalyst to actually start a union?
Well, in 1982, up till up till the end of 1982, it was illegal to play in the Metro. Actually, up until 1983, and in the last couple of months in 1982, the Metro Police had gotten directions from their superiors to really clamp down on the Metro musicians. Near the end of December of 1982, I had received 3 tickets, and they were progressively more expensive each one. So I had the guardianship of my 2 kids. So I was a single father with 2 kids, and I was facing a possible $1,600 in fines, and I didn't know where the money was going to come from to pay for that. And I knew there were other musicians in the same position as me. So I went home, I drew up a petition with the help of my francophone girlfriend. We drew it up in French. We got it photocopied. And the next day I took it out and distributed it to the Metro musicians and told them to get copies made of the copies and to get signed by the public. So we did that. And right after the Christmas holidays that year, I contacted the newspapers, and La Presse responded to us right away, gave us a half a page splash on page 2 of La Presse with a nice big photo. And when I got home that afternoon, I had a whole pile of calls on my answering machine from TV, radio, and other newspapers wanting interviews. And it just became, it had a snowball effect, and for a whole month there was just a deluge of media coverage. And during that period of time, I called a meeting of the Metro musicians, and what was really amazing was there was only about 30-some musicians playing in the Metro at that time, and there was not one musician missing from that meeting. Every musician came to that meeting, and I have not seen any artistic event where everybody who is asked to come to a meeting comes to the meeting. So it was really great, and we elected a committee, and I was elected president at that time, and we decided that we had to form an association to get taken seriously, and then we went ahead and got a charter.
Now let's talk a little bit about how this union is now structured within all of the metro stations. Every metro station, to my understanding, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, every metro station has a designated area for an act to perform.
Every station where musicians are allowed to play has a designated area where acts are allowed to perform.
Are there any metro stations that do not allow any acts to perform?
Yes, there are quite a few still. And there are some metro stations where we were allowed to perform before, and within the past few years they've taken the signs down.
And do they give you any particular reason as to why that's happened?
Yes, mainly the main reason is because certain musicians who play with amplifiers have been abusing the right to play with amplifiers and have been cranking up the volume and making it impossible for the employees to work. And sometimes the volume is cranked so high that the passengers complain too, because it just hurts their ears. So the Transport Commission's response to that is taking down the signs, therefore penalizing all the musicians for the sake of one or two musicians, which is really unfortunate.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah.
From my understanding, that this is a very self-regulated system where the musicians themselves are very much involved in the scheduling as to who's going to perform when.
That's exactly how it works, yeah. Every day in there's only one exception to this rule, okay? But every station except one where musicians are allowed to play, the musicians get up early in the morning. Some stations where there's a lot of competition, they'll arrive in front of the station as early as 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And the first person to arrive will take either a small, the small notepads. Take a piece of paper from a small notepad or something, like a memo pad, or the back of a cigarette package or something like that. And you write the date, the name of the station, and then you list the hours, depending if it's a 3-hour spot or a 2-hour spot. You list all the hours in accordance with that, either in terms of 3-hour shifts or 2-hour shifts. And the first person who arrives, who makes up the list, will put his or her name beside the spot that they want. And then the next one to arrive chooses from what's left and takes the relief, takes the list from that person, and waits until either the doors open or until the next musician arrives.
So this is very much a first come first serve basis.
It's a first come first serve basis, and it works on a complete honor system.
What are some of the places that you prefer performing in the Metro systems?
Well, I prefer performing at. I like Snowdon. I like Place des Arts in the Blurry side. I like Crémazie. I used to play at St. Matthew on the Guy side, on St. Matthew side of the Guy station, until they took that down. Occasionally I'll play on the Guy side. I used to also play at Villa Maria until they took that down too.
Now that we're on the topic of performance, one of the treats we have here, folks, is that Greg has agreed to play his flute. We're going to go to a live performance of Greg.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Guys, does your bachelor pad look as frightening as an Elvis convention? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you own a twin bed and still love your Star Wars sheets? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Is the only source of artificial light in your bachelor pad the bare, dusty bulb hanging from the ceiling? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do your friends walk into your apartment and think you have been robbed? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. Do you think that minimalist means barren as the Gobi Desert? Then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. If your bathroom is home to a colony of anything, then you need the Pimping Your Pad seminar. The Pimping Your Pad seminar and telephone consultations only available at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Calibrated Storytelling Seminar. Have you ever felt tongue-tied when talking to a woman and did not know what to say next? This seminar provides the structure to create personalized stories that connect to a woman's emotional needs. Calibration is about putting people into the categories and then modifying your behavior. Do you want to learn how to be truthful about who you are, but in an interesting and seductive way? If you want women to like you for the real you, then this seminar is for you. The Calibrated Storytelling Seminars and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio today with Mr. Greg Dunlevy, who is an artist of multi-talents, and today we're speaking specifically about his position as president of the Metro Musicians Association, as well as his experiences as a street and metro performer. Mr. Dunlevy, welcome back.
Thanks, Frank.
That was an actually very lovely piece. Can you tell me a little bit about the piece?
Well, pretty much all my pieces that, all my own music, just comes from what I feel. It's spontaneous. It's improvised. There's a basic theme to it. Other than that, it's completely right off the top of my head.
So you're very well connected with your emotions then, if you could just play directly from your heart like that.
I suppose you could say that, yeah. I try to be connected with my emotions, the most I can, the best I can.
Let's turn this interview now to the type of thing that not everybody would like to deal with, but it's part of life. Some of the sacrifices that you've made to live the lifestyle you do as an artist, and some of the obstacles you've encountered performing on the streets and in the metros.
Well, as far as sacrifices are concerned, you have, well, personally, I guess I can only speak personally. I've had some really good periods, and I've had some really lean periods. They're, in fact, every year is like that, I'd say a good part of my year is fairly lucrative. Money comes in. I'm nowhere close to becoming rich fast. That's for darn sure. But I get by fairly well, and then when you get to January, February, March, and yes, April, it is pretty slow. The contracts stop coming in. Well, you might get the occasional contract coming in, but during those months, it's not that often. And acting in Montreal, well, as far as the film industry is concerned, boy, has that ever taken a dive in the past 4 or 5 years. I was at an audition last week, and every actor there was complaining about the lack of work. So, but as far as the music is concerned, yeah, there are times when it's really tight. There are times when I have to ask my landlord, look, could you hold off? I'll pay you as soon as I can. I just don't have the money. And yet there's other periods of time I can pay 2 or 3 months of rent in advance. So it's up and down. But as you said, it's a lifestyle choice. It's something that I really love doing. I love playing my flute. I love playing my saxophone. I love being up on my stilts. I love playing when I'm not on my stilts. I love the contracts that I get, corporate events that I do, the cultural events that I do. I was in Tahiti just before Christmas for a gig over there for 10 days. I mean, all expenses paid. Boy, what a what a pleasure cruise that was, let me tell you. So, but there are tough times. There's times when I'll play in some metros in the middle of winter where it's so cold that my fingers crack open. I can't feel the keys that I'm playing because my hands are too frozen. Today, when I was playing on St. Catherine Street, I was playing on my stilts with my saxophone, and this guy comes up to me and intentionally walks right into me, and then tried to push me out of the way. Now, where does that come from? What kind of an idiot would do something like this? Because if he actually was able to push me down, and I fell in a certain way, I could fracture my spinal column and be paralyzed for the rest of my life. Now, what kind of mentality is that?
Actually, for the benefit of our listeners, can you give us a visual description of your performance? Because I don't know if we didn't actually cover that. When you perform on the street or in the metro, you perform on stilts.
Not all the time, but on the street, yes. Not in the metro. Usually in the mornings, I don't perform on stilts. But anywhere from noon on, I usually perform on stilts.
And what else does your costume incorporate?
Well, I have different costumes for different events. During the winter time, when I'm playing in the metro, I wear a long pair of black pants. I wear a fuchsia-colored shirt with a vest on top of it, a purple scarf on my head. And in the metro, I usually play my flute. Out on the street, I usually play the saxophone. And this time of year, I'm still wearing the dark pants and the fuchsia shirt. When it gets into the hotter season, I wear a green tank top, long purple pants, and a fuchsia sash, a long fuchsia sash around my waist with the purple scarf.
And do you find that people recognize you? Do you have people coming up to you and saying, "Hey, I know you. You're the guy who performs in the metro"?
Exactly. I do have that. I've been on movie sets where people have come up to me and said, "Oh, hey, aren't you the guy who plays on St. Catherine Street, the saxophone on stilts, or plays in the metro, or in a bus or in a store?" It's yeah.
Well, you know what? It's about that time. We're talking about performance again. It's time for you to get back on that flute here on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. What is inner game? There's a lot of contradictory information out there, and one size does not fit all. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. This is a workbook, which means we will work together, and by the end, you will have developed your own personal inner game. By this, learn what it means to be a man and what the role of the modern man in today's society is that will attract him to the woman he wants. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Guys, if the only breast you ever touched was in a bucket of chicken, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only thing you've licked recently has been your fingers to turn the pages of a book, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only female body part you are familiar with wears a cape, can fly, or has superpowers, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If you think the G-Spot is the name of a new club, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the words missionary conjures up images of guys in long robes, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only sensation your fingers have had are pressing the buttons on your remote control, then you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Do you know what it means when a woman asks you up to her place for coffee? If you think that she is thirsty for caffeine, then you definitely need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Pimping Your Pad Seminars. Decorating your bachelor apartment. Your home and the way you live is an extension of your sexuality. Frank will show you, with pictures of his own home, what women look for that identifies you as a potential partner. Frank looks at everything from theme rooms to furniture placement and space management to pets to the organization of your bathroom to get women to want to spend the night. The Pimping Your Pad Seminars and telephone consultations. Only available at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank, because I have to be. We're in studio today with Mr. Greg Dunlevy, who is a multi-talented artist and the president of the Metro Musicians Association. Hey, I got it right this time. No
Very
tongue
good,
twist.
Frank. Boy, you're hot tonight, man.
I'm getting the better, man. That's what happens when you study and work hard, man. You don't get tongue twisted. Okay, let's get back to Greg. Greg, let's start off this segment now. We only got about maybe 10 more minutes with you here. Let's start talking about your first time performing in a metro station. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, that was pretty comical, Frank. I had just gotten back to Montreal. I'd been away for several years, and it was I'd been back for about maybe 7-8 months, and I was really tight for money. I was an artisan at the time, a craftsman, and I was trying to make my way in music. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my debts and just get above board. And one of my friends suggested that I go and play music in the Metro. He said, well, he says, I've seen, you play well enough, and I've seen other people do it, and they seem to be, making a few bucks anyway, give it a shot. And I said, geez, I don't know. Oh, go ahead, do it. So I went into the Metro. I went to Square Victoria. And I didn't, at that time there were only 2 exits to Square Victoria. And I didn't take the one where the Dome is. I took the other one leading to the Bell Towers. And I wanted to find a place where I was sure not to encounter anybody who knew me. Because I associated that with panhandling. And I was sure that other people would too. So I was, I had this embarrassment issue and everything else. So I play, and at the end of about 3 hours, I count up my money, and I thought, oh, well, I'm coming back here tomorrow, and there went the embarrassment right out the window. So the thing is that during that period, it was very easy to go into the metro, and we're talking about like 1982. Very easy to go into the metro and come out with over $100 a day. But boy, things have really changed. The economy, everything's gone up. The dollar is worth about 3 times, maybe 4 times what it was back then. And the metro musicians today are making a third or less what they were making back then. I know metro musicians who are making, who make $2-3 an hour. And there's others who make more, but
So it's not necessarily a guaranteed lifestyle. You won't necessarily make enough money to live on.
No, you don't necessarily make enough money to live on. I guess I'm one of the lucky ones because I don't put all my eggs in one basket, and cliche. And but I try to spread myself out in as many areas as I can, and at the same time tie all those areas together.
I'd like to ask you, looking towards the future, what are some of your future aspirations, not only with yourself as an artist, but also as president of the Metro Musicians Association?
Well, I'd like to see the Transport Commission be a little more flexible with us, rather than punishing all the musicians for the sake of 1 or 2 musicians who are really cranking up their amps to an intolerable level. Give us auditions and permits, and in that way you can penalize the musicians who are abusing the system. I'd also like to see them give us more recognition as an association. That hopefully is on its way to coming. I've just retaken the helm as president of the Metro Musicians Association a year ago, and when I took it back again, it took me almost 6 months just to find out who in the Transport Commission had our file. So things had been in a state of chaos with the association for the last little bit of time, but we're getting that back online now.
Time for some final thoughts. Greg, is there anything that you would like to talk about for your final thoughts on your interview?
One thing that I really love is the opportunity that this lifestyle gives me to travel. I can travel whenever I want, and I enjoy life. I really enjoy my life. And one thing that I find really great and fulfilling is knowing that I have the power to bring pleasure to people. And when I get little notes of thank you in my case, and I get people telling me how I fill their days with pleasure and sunshine, and I see the smiles on little kids' faces when I'm up in my stilts, I mean, what better fulfillment can you have than that?
That sounds like a really, really nice life.
Yeah, I think so.
You know what? Why don't we go right into your next musical bridge, and let's go now to Greg. That was beautiful. Greg, thank you so much for having come down to our studios and spending some time with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, Frank. It's been a real pleasure for me.
Greg, you offered to play some music while I'm talking on air. I would love it if you could take your flute up.
Sure.
And you can just play whatever you want. Let's go. This week's crew on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. First of all, I would like to thank Zoltan King, my right-hand man, my website manager, and the internship trainer. And yeah, you want all the more titles, eh, Zoltan? Okay, well, you've earned them. Is there anything you don't do on this show, Zoltan? Thank you very much for your participation. To thank Greg Dunlevy, who came in today and gave us a really great interview and taught us a little something about the people we see every day. Who are the people in your neighborhood? They're metro musicians. They are artists. And Greg gave us a little bit of an insight into their life. And thank you all very much for participating. Thank you very much for listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures, and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. Ladies, is there a man in your life that got dumped for being clingy, needy, or was told he was a loser, but you still think he's a nice guy and want to help him? He could be a relative or even a friend, and you know he needs the help. Do you want to be the one to give him the gift that will change his life forever? How about the gift of a great biography? Buy him the book, From Loser to Seducer by Frank B. Kermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help the nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Doesn't cost a lot of money. It's the best rate going around. But it costs a lot of money. Oh, it's worth every cent that you will put down. Yeah. Frank Talks.com. Oh, you got to go to we're certain, just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's several goods. Good love can soon come to you.